Well, good morning. I'm Brian Reagan, and this is
Tyler Kelly.
And Tyler, where are we coming from today?
Mornings. We would be in Romans chapter 1.
Romans chapter 1 on your Mornings with Brian and Tyler. And just so much in Romans chapter 1. Let's hit some high points. Tyler, read verse 16 and 17.
For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek. For in the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith.
All right. For in the gospel of Christ is God's righteousness revealed from faith to faith, because the just will live by faith. That's how the just live. That's how the saved live, is by faith. We don't live by sight. We live by faith. And if we are in the gospel, we have come to know God's righteousness by faith, and thus we should be living by that faith. The contrast of that, though, is the gospel that reveals God's righteousness to those of faith also points in verse 18 through 20. Tyler, if you don't mind reading those.
For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse.
All right. And so just like righteousness is revealed by the gospel, God's wrath is revealed against all ungodliness. So those who are not of the gospel are not of righteousness, and they are abiding under wrath. And it is clear against ungodliness, unrighteousness, who suppress the truth. Which truth? The truth of the gospel. The people who try and stop the gospel. That God's wrath will come against them. And here's the challenge. They can't claim, all right, and I would say to you that it goes even further. It goes to suppressing the truth about God. And I would just say, think about the American educational system that says, no, you can't talk about God, but you can say that man evolved up by something that is mathematically it's so mathematically absurd, it is essentially impossible. And that the mechanism that they claim that validates evolution, they have never been able to duplicate in the lab. But I want to give you something to think about. If 100 scientists working for 20 years with all of their brains come up with a process to duplicate what they think is the mechanism of evolution, you know what that proves, Tyler?
What?
It doesn't prove it happened by random chance. It happens, and it proves that it happens.
When 20 scientists using all their brains for 20 years or whatever, 100 scientists, however many it was, for a long time, work on something to make it happen.
With intelligent thought, design, planning, and purpose to create a mechanism that's accidental. Wow. Okay.
My brain hurts. That's just no.
Wow. All right. Because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. If you understand human anatomy, and I mean just a basic anatomy book, not one that's all this evolution garbage. I'm talking Gray's Anatomy would be a decent one. It explains the biological functions. You eat animal, vegetable, and mineral material. It goes into your stomach. It is sent out throughout your body. It goes into cells. Mitochondria break certain things down to generate power through an electrochemical process that at the same time you're picking up oxygen, you're discharging carbon dioxide, you're picking up fresh nutrients, you're discarding used nutrients through all these membrane walls and everything else, and this stuff never stops moving, ever. I mean, technically your body keeps moving even after you're dead. as these processes finish running down their energy levels. Second law of thermodynamics. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they're without excuse. Someone says, well, they never heard of God. I mean, for crying out loud, wasn't it Whitman? I think it was Whitman. Only God can make a tree. Famous poem. I think it was Whitman. Only God can make a tree. Your fingernail, it's not an accident. Your hair, it's not an accident. For those of you who lost your hair, remember back when you had it, it wasn't an accident. You know? And I want you to think of one other thing. What would be the mathematical odds that a compatible male and a compatible female would evolve in the same geographic region at the exact same time by random chance, that they would come together to be able to reproduce, to start an entirely new species? When just the sheer mathematical probability of even one correct amino acid making a protein, that there are less stars in the calculable universe than there are odds of the correct amino acids ever making a protein, let alone a life. Since all of the amino acids that, quote, naturally evolve, they're all right-handed, and that means they're lethal and they can't reproduce or join together. It's always death. The entire structure of everything says there has to be a designer behind the design. There has to be thought behind the process. And it's only those who want to be unrighteous who deny that process and try and suppress the truth of it. Do you have any other thoughts on this, my brother?
No, sir.
All right. Yeah, 100 monkeys typing for 100 years on 100 typewriters still doesn't produce Shakespeare. And that would be easier. That would be easier than the basic DNA matrix of one human being over 100 million years. I'm Brian Reagan. This is
Tyler Kelly.
And we will see you
this afternoon at 12:30.
All right. Talk to you then.